Welcome to Reading the New Testament in Original Greek. We're reading in this session Matthew chapter 2 and the second half of the verse 13. If you haven't looked at this session, the first parts of verse 13, please take a look at first and then continue to the second half. We talked about it last time in the third sentence. Ke isti eki. Isti, the difference between isti and ithi, which originally imi and imi. Right? We'll look at the last sessions if you don't remember it. Okay, eos an ipo. Until. Now I want to take a look at an, the grammatically very complicated issues with conditional sentence usually. Excuse me. Eos means until. We have seen previously that it came with genitive u, eos u. Well, it's not always. It's the rare cases with the u in the genitive. Usually eos until it stands by itself. Eos an. Now, before you talk about, if you see an, first of all, what you have to do is where is it located? This is very important. Is it in the main clause or in dependent clause? Now, after you divide it, which is the main clause and a dependent clause, the location an, whether it's in the main clause or in a dependent clause, then it's grammatically makes a bit different cases. Now, for example, for our cases, and we're going to look at what's involved in our sentence. Que isti aquí, go there until eos iposi, until I tell you. So what is the main clause? And what is the main sentence? Of course, it's then que isti aquí, and go there until I tell you so. Until I tell you. Well, it can't not stand by itself, so it's dependent clause, right? The an is located in between eos until I tell you. Now, now we have identified this an is in the dependent clause. Then what's the next step? Is the verb mood. What is the verb mood that in the dependent clause? Now we have ipo. And we talked about this one before with ipon and idon. Don't get confused with idon and with ipon. Well, ipon was my way of memorizing it with a pie, with a p. What you do with a pie, you eat with the mouth. Then that's why it's ipon. It means I said, and idon is I saw. Now we have ipon as the aorist, the first person, the indicative. Now we have ipo with omega, with a vocal stretch ending. It's a typical ending for subjunctive, right? O is e. It's a similar, it's almost the pronunciation in a modern Greek. It's the same as in the present active, O is e. But instead, the spelling, it's a different with a vocal stretch. O, omega, and the eta with the iota subscriptums, right? We say epsilon is the iota, usually, in the present indicative. But eta as a vocal is stretched to eta, and a iota becomes iota subscriptum underneath. So in a subjunctive, O is E, with E's, eta with the iota subscriptums as an indication that it's a subjunctive. Now we have the subjunctive ipo, I say, I tell. Now we have defined this one as subjunctive. What does it mean? This means this one is giving you the perspective, an aspect. It's called a perspectivus, meaning it's either iterative meaning or eventual meaning, right? An aspect. Iterative aspect is something that's repeating itself, right? The verb is translated as a repetition. So keep doing it, keep telling you, right? Eventualist means eventually it will happen in the sense of future. What is it our case? Eos an hyposi. Now, do not translate an as the grammatical indications that how to translate. Now, in an iterative and eventualist, which one do we need to decide here? Well, usually it depends on the main verb and the main clause. Usually, now we have an imperative, right? It's an order imperative. It could be in an imperative in the sense of order, but prohibiting it. Or do not do it. Do not do something, and do something. And also, there is also a temporal signal word. For example, our case, eos. We have both eos and isti, an imperative, which indicates that we have to translate an eventualis, that will eventually happen. If you translate into iterative, then go there, right? Keep going there until I keep telling you. Well, or go there until I keep telling you. Well, it doesn't make any sense, right? That's why it's just one punctual the one point that will in the future sense happen. That's why we have to take them in eventualities. So go there until I tell you. Punkt. No repetition. Excuse me. So try to remember when you see an, then is it in the main clause or dependent clause? If it's in the dependent clause, usually, in almost all cases, no optative it will be followed. When it's in the main clause, usually an optative follows, and it makes it different categories. But in a dependent clause, the verb is not, in almost all cases, optative. Then defines the mood of the verb and whether you're going to translate in an iterativus or eventualis. Okay, that's the key. Now, the rest of the verse 13. Meli. Meli means, as in from the verb melo, he will, I will. I'm about to do something. I plan to do something means melo. Now, I plan to do something, right? To, infinitive, to do. I will to do something. I'm about to do something. It naturally requires excuse me, an infinitive. We have zidin from the zideo, and with the ending the aorist, the in. Zidin is an infinitive that's required by melo. So if you see melo, try to find first where is the infinitive. Then of course, then what you have to do is then find the subject. What subject could be there? The subject could not may not be there because meli itself is the ending in the third person singular. If it's clearly someone who previously talked about it, no subject could appear. But we have Herodes in a nominative case, makes it perfect match for the verb meli. So the King Herod is about to, right? Because it's in a present form. About to as zidin, to search, to look for. When you say to seek, to look for, then of course, what is it looking for and what? And then naturally, accusative object is required. To pedion. That's why to pedion, an accusative, grammatically required by zidin. So look for to pedion. Then zidin, the infinitive, is grammatically connected again to meli. And Herodes is to meli also. God is a positive word meaning for. Because for the King Herod is about to look for the child. Now when you say to look for in a Greek word ziteo, it gives a more sense of an effort. He has to put an effort to look for. Okay, although it's in a dictionary, it gives a meaning of to look for, to seek, but it has more efforts into it. It's very difficult to find something, so he has to put extra efforts to look for, to seek. That's what it means in entail. Now what we have rest do apolese afto. Now before we talk about do, the genitive definite article, apolese is an infinitive again with sigma alpha iota. Apoleo, apolimi is from the verb napolimi, right? And apo is a compound verb, apo plus olimi. Now olimi changes in the future, oleo, olesa, oleleka. Now we have an infinitive ending sigma alpha iota. It's a typical ending also in the aorist active, right? Apolese. Now to let's see, to destroy. Apolimi means to destroy or to ruin. Now making it with a definite article do. It's just simply definite articles with infinitive means it's a substantive. The form is a substantive. Okay, it's a verb with an infinitive, but it's making it as a noun. Like for example, destroy, to destroy, destroying, right? In a sense, when it comes with the do, especially with genitive, to plus infinitive, it means in order to do something. It gives a purpose, with the purpose of the infinite verb. Do apolese, so it becomes in order to destroy, in order to ruin. Well, to destroy what, right? Again, apolese requires another accusative. After this. To apolese after. Okay, this is today's session. So we finished at verse 13. I hope you have enjoyed it. There are quite a few to remember. It's very complicated with an and a conditional tense sentence. Try to remember what's involved in today's in a dependent clause. And again, with the do infinitive, it gives the purpose translated. When you translate it with the purpose in order to infinitive. Okay, if you don't have if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and I will look forward to our next session. Thank you.